Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to a Hindu newspaper analysis for today. Before we begin, there's an important announcement. On 30th of November, that is Wednesday, midweek, we have a very important workshop for all of you at 7 p.m. live on the Byjus Exam Prep app. If you are looking to prepare for the civil service examination or you are planning to make a career in civil service, this is a very essential workshop for all of you. Do attend to ask any question about civil services and to know why a career in civil services is so prestigious. The link to register for the workshop is given in the description of the video. Now let's begin with the very first article that is based on a very interesting population trend. Now usually when you talk about India and you talk about population, the one thing that we usually discuss is that the population in India is increasing or that we have too much population at our hand as compared to the natural resources that we have. The author here, for a change, is actually presenting a different point of view. The author is saying that right now, yes, India's population is increasing and it will increase till 2063. It will start declining after 2063. However, the trend is that you have to understand once the population of India starts to decline, we would actually have a significant problem at our hand. Not just this, even this population increase that we are talking about till 2063, that is not in every state in India. There are many states in India where the population rate or the fertility rate has come down below the replacement level. So their population is not increasing and we should be concerned about those states specifically. The author says that while the world's population is expected to grow until 2086, this will mainly be led by least developed nations in Africa mainly. There are nations that are already now feeling the pressure of a declining young population. Talk about Japan, South Korea, Europe. These are some of the nations which are hoping to actually reverse the population trend. They are trying to now increase their population by giving encouragement to their ladies to reproduce more kids so that they can have a younger population. But it is not as easy as it seems unless you actually allow the women enough time, enough opportunities, enough freedom to undertake more kids. You will never have a situation where they start producing more kids. So that is a long term process. You can't have it overnight. When you talk about India, the fertility rate in India is varied across the country. If you look at certain states such as Kerala, Tamil Nadu, these are the states which achieve their replacement level of population very early. Replacement level means a fertility rate of 2.1, wherein your population becomes stable. Number of people dying will be replaced by number of people who are taking birth. A fertility rate below this means your population will now decline in the long run. This has happened in Kerala and Tamil Nadu long time back, and the other states now are also doing the same. Now, usually, when you have such a situation where the population starts to decline in certain states or certain countries, how they actually handle the situation is that they improve their migration policies. That is, they make it more attractive for people from the other parts of the country or other parts of the world to migrate to their state so that they can have a younger population coming in from outside. Specifically with respect to Kerala and Tamil Nadu, this does not seem to be happening. Yes, their population is declining as compared to the other states in India, but the problem is the number of migrants coming into these states is not enough to replace the number of migrants going out of these states. Kerala, for example, specifically has been well known to have many people go out of the state and work in the Middle East. That is why they need much more migrants, and we are not talking about that. If you look at the urban fertility rate in India, it is very close to UK. While UK is debating it very seriously, how to improve their population rate, how to bring in more youngsters, India in the urban areas is still not talking about that. We are still fixated with the problem of huge population, but we're not realizing that this population trend will reverse and that is when the problem will start in India. As I told you, specifically Tamil Nadu and Kerala are the two states which have been pointed out in this article. The two states where the average person is much older as compared to the other states. For example, by 2036, an average person in Tamil Nadu will be 12 years older as compared to an average person in Bihar. And as I said, the migration is not enough to neutralize that gap. There are many challenges that we will be facing and we are still facing. First, the skewed sex ratio. We have still seen that despite a lot of laws, which say that it is banned to determine the sex of the child before birth. Even then, we have seen that whenever there is only one single child that the couple has, they prefer to go with a male child. And secondly, there's a big difference between northern and the southern states in terms of literacy and even enrollment in higher education. You have seen how in the southern states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, the literacy rate, the education levels are much, much higher as compared to the northern states. Thus, the amount of skills and the job that people have, the money that they earn in northern and southern part of India is not the same. Then the third problem is that even this debate on population has been given a religious turn which is not really based on facts. A lot of times we have seen that the Muslim population has been criticized for increasing the population of India, which is not really based on facts. There's a sharp anti Muslim tone in this conversation, but the fact is that their fertility rate is not very, very far from the fertility rate of Hindus in the country. So there is a debate that needs to happen, not just about increasing population, but also about how different states in India will suffer once the young population in their states actually starts to come down. Now, all this debate is centered around the issue of demographic dividend. Demographic dividend means a situation where a majority of people in the country are of young population, working population who can actually pay taxes to the government, who can take part in economic activities, because of whom the country actually goes forward. Now, India is blessed to have a very, very large demographic dividend because we're a very young country, but it will never be the same. It is actually changing very, very rapidly. In India, for example, the average age is increasing. As you have seen in countries such as Japan, Italy, these countries have an average age of above 40 years because they have great healthcare facilities, the fertility rate is low, so they are facing a problem of not enough people in the workforce. They have an issue where lesser people pay taxes, but there are many, many more people who are dependent on the pension, etc. In states such as Kerala, Tamil Nadu, it has already happened where the demographic window has closed as in these states, majority of the people are already out of the working age. Then we have states such as Delhi, Karnataka, etc. But the good part with these states, Delhi, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, is that they have a lot of migration. A lot of people come into these states from outside the state to work. That is how they maintain a young population. This is where Tamil Nadu and Kerala have to buckle up. Also, as I said, as the demographic dividend changes, you will see the amount of population that is paying taxes will be lesser, and the amount of population which is dependent on these taxes and welfare of the government actually increases, and we have to look into that. The next article that we have here is on the topic of same-sex marriage in India, a topic that has been discussed in the Supreme Court multiple times. The reason why we are discussing this is because the Supreme Court of India has received multiple petitions asking the court to allow them same-sex marriage under the Special Marriage Act of 1954. Because of these petitions, Supreme Court has now asked the central government and the Attorney General about their views. What do they think about it? Do they want to change the law, or do they favor these kind of marriages under the Special Marriage Act? Now, the Special Marriage Act specifically provides civil form of marriage for couples who cannot marry under any other personal law. Personal law are the laws of different religions that we have that talk about marriage, divorce, inheritance of property, etc. So those who are not covered under any other personal law of their religion, they can come up and marry under the Special Marriage Act. The petitioners say that because we are not covered under any other religious law, please allow us to marry under this, and not allowing us to marry under this will be a violation of the Constitution of India, because the Constitution of India does not discriminate between same-sex couples and opposite-sex couples. The petitioners say that same-sex marriage should be recognized because the Supreme Court itself in 2018, in the famous Navtej Singh Johar case, had decriminalized homosexuality. And the next step obviously has to be legalizing marriage only. Even in the Puttaswamy judgment, the Supreme Court had affirmed that right to privacy is a fundamental right. And thus, the people, irrespective of their gender, should have the right to marry whoever they want. Now, the fact is that in this Navtej Johar case, the Supreme Court did decriminalize homosexuality, but they never said that marriage would be legal or illegal when it happens between same-sex couples. it did say that section 377 of the IPC was unconstitutional and it has to be removed. That is where the judgment had ended, but they never talked about marriage as such. There are multiple such cases on this issue in the Supreme Court. For example, there was a Nalsa case of 2014, under which the Supreme Court said that fundamental rights such as equality, non-discrimination, freedom, etc., have to be given to everyone irrespective of their gender, male, female, or otherwise. Now, the interesting part is the government's stand on this issue has not been very liberal. The government in the past has said that marriage between a biological man and biological women only has to be permissible. The government also said that the Navtej Court judgment of 2018 that we are talking about never legalized same-sex marriage as we discussed. It only decriminalizes section 377 and we are fine with this, but it never talked about same-sex marriage as such. And that is why we have to take that into consideration. There are multiple other nations that are way ahead of India when it comes to recognizing same-sex marriages. Total of 32 nations right now have legalized such marriages through different types of laws. Interestingly, many countries before recognizing marriage recognize same-sex civil unions. Now what is this? Same-sex civil union means that you don't marry, but as a couple you will still have certain rights that a married couple would have. For example, rights of inheritance, that your property will now be inherited to your partner, medical benefits, employee benefits, joint taxes, finances, etc. Usually these are the opportunities and freedoms given to a couple, but under many of the country's laws, as per same-sex civil union, the couples were allowed to do that. After that, the next step was legalizing their marriage. Netherlands was the first country in the entire world in 2001 to legalize same-sex marriage, and it was followed by other nations as well. Now, just to give you an idea about the Special Marriage Act of 1954 that is under discussion, as I said earlier, this is an act that is specifically used by people who are not covered under any other personal law. As per the act, it is the duty of the judiciary to ensure that rights of both husband and the wife are protected. Now, this law of the parliament calls for civil marriage of people of India and all Indian nationals in foreign countries, irrespective of their religion, faith, or any other belief that they follow. As per this act, people from two different religious backgrounds can come together and have a marriage. It also lays down procedures for solemnizing and registration of marriage, irrespective of the religion of the people. And being a secular act, it plays a key role in liberating people of their traditional duties if they don't want to follow them. As you can see here, the act doesn't make any mention about gender, about same-sex marriage or anything. It now leads to the interpretation of the code. How do they interpret it? Do they actually follow it up? Or do they say that no, this law does not really allow same-sex marriage? There are different arguments given from both sides. One side that has been in agreement with this law, that it does allow same-sex marriage, the liberal side, while the other side says that no, we should not allow this. That is what the government stand has been so far. Now you never know. This time around when the Supreme Court has asked for the government of India's consideration, maybe they gave a different feedback, but so far the government has not been very much open to this issue. The next article that we have here is about a new trouble that is coming up in the field of technology. Trouble by the name of bluebugging. As the name suggests, bluebugging is a kind of a technology of hacking which is done via the Bluetooth. So bluebugging says that apps which let you connect your smartphones or laptops to wireless earplugs, they can actually record your conversations and you are then vulnerable to attack, which is called bluebugging. So basically what happens is hackers can discover your Bluetooth if your Bluetooth is switched on, and through that they can listen to your calls, read and send messages, and even steal and modify your contacts. This is a new trouble coming up. Now, in order to avoid bluebugging, as per the experts, you should turn off your Bluetooth and disconnect the paired Bluetooth devices when they are not in use. The problem is if you have been using those kind of new earplugs that we have, the AirPods and those kind of stuff, if you see they don't have a switch on or off button for Bluetooth. As soon as you take them out of the case, the Bluetooth is automatically switched on. So it's difficult to actually switch them off specifically. If you're keeping them in a power on mode, they usually are in switch on mode automatically. So First, you should switch off your Bluetooth when not in use. Secondly, you should update your system's software to the latest version so that a protection can be given to you. Don't use a lot of public Wi-Fi connection. This is how maybe you can prevent blue bugging. Most of the devices, as I said, have now made Bluetooth discoverable by default, which has become a big problem. Modern paid antivirus softwares may help you in this direction, but since this technology of blue bugging is emerging, it may be difficult for the antivirus softwares to actually protect you from this. Now, Bluetooth technology is one of those technologies which have been very common around the world. It was developed in the late 1990s and it is based on radio frequency. It works on 2.4 gigahertz frequency and it actually uses radio frequency as compared to infrared, which was used in usual remote controls. Bluetooth actually allows you to have a connection between the two devices without any wire connection, and you can easily communicate without being in the line of sight as well. In fact, this particular technology is one of the most common technologies that are in use even today around the world. There are also some other related words that are in the news, so I wanted to actually discuss those as well. Apart from blue bugging, we also have words such as blue jacking and blue snarfing. What are these? Blue jacking is the least harmful of all of those. It just involves sending unwanted, unsolicited messages over Bluetooth. It is harmless, it might embarrass you for a bit, but it is perfectly harmless. Then comes blue snarfing. Now, while blue jacking was sending some content to a victim just to embarrass a person, blue snarfing would mean taking content from the victim. Now, that can be dangerous. If your images, contact, other data, password is taken from you via the Bluetooth connection, that is called blue snarfing. The biggest issue is that you might even not notice that that is happening and your data is being stolen over Bluetooth if the Bluetooth is connected to a device by the hacker. Now, blue snarfing and blue bugging are very similar, but blue bugging goes even one step further. After gaining access to the device, the hacker can install their own kind of a software and even keep accessing it in the future. Blue snarfing would be a one-time attack, while blue bugging would actually keep on attacking your device once it has gained connection. It kind of leaves a bug in your phone and in your Bluetooth device, and it keeps on getting connected back to the criminals. These are the new kind of technologies, or I should say, new kind of troubles arising because of technology. The next article that we have here is based on a news report from the Ministry of External Affairs, which has announced that the chief guest at India's Republic Day celebrations in 2023 will be Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. This is the first time that we will have a guest in the Republic Day parade since 2020. As you know, in the last couple of years, the guest plans were cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That is why it is a very important occasion. Not just this, this is the first time that the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt will be the chief guest at our event. The interesting part is that both the nations are celebrating 75th year of establishing diplomatic relations with the two sides. The relations, as you know, go way back at the beginning of the non-aligned movement, where the two countries had actually come together and made the foundation of the non-aligned movement along with other countries such as Indonesia, Ghana, Yugoslavia, etc. Egypt has also been invited as a guest country during India's presidency of the G20 next year. As you know, usually we have this tradition of inviting leaders of our friendly nations to our Republic Day celebrations. Just that in 1952, 53 and 56, due to various reasons, we did not have any guests during the Republic Day parade celebrations. In 2021, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson had to be here, but because of the sudden increase in the COVID cases in Britain, his plan got cancelled. In 2018, we had the entire ASEAN leadership in India. 2020, Bolsonaro, that is the Brazil president or ex-president now, was here. We have had many notable people come here on the Republic Day celebrations, including Barack Obama, Vladimir Putin, Nicolas Sarkozy, François Hollande, and many others who have actually graced our Republic Day parade. Now, the reason why India has chosen Egypt is a very significant and strategic one. As I discussed, India and Egypt have a long relation. If you go back to ancient history, the two civilizations actually had a lot in common. Both these civilizations grew along the banks of famous rivers of Nile and the Indus. After our independence, both the nations got together to lay the foundation of the non-aligned movement. During the 1956 war, India in fact supported Egypt and even threatened to withdraw our country from the British Commonwealth if no action was taken to stop the war. The two nations have also tried to increase their trade as much as possible, while Egypt has been India's most important trading partner in the African continent. We also have the India Egypt bilateral trade agreement, under which we have given the most favored nation status to Egypt as well. We import and export a lot of things from and to Egypt as well. Major imports into Egypt that we send include the cotton yarn, coffee, herbs, tobacco, etc. While the things that we actually import into India include raw cotton, leather, non organic chemicals, etc. There's also a bit of cultural link between the two sides since India has established Maulana Azad Center for Indian Culture there. If you actually look at Egypt, it might not really come at the top of your mind, but the reality is there is a lot of presence of Indian diaspora in Egypt as well. It's not just the Western countries or the Middle East where the Indian diaspora is located. Egypt also has a fair number of Indians. In fact, there's a festival called India by the Nile, which is celebrated annually in Egypt to bring together the Indian culture, Indian art forms, etc. And the Indians can actually connect with their roots being in Egypt itself. The next article that we have here is about the recent order of the President of India to transfer multiple High Court judges, which has again brought this topic into question. So recently what happened was the President of India gave orders of multiple High Court judges of transfer from one High Court to the other. As you know, these orders are given by the President on the advice of the Collegium. This Collegium, as you know, consists of the Chief Justice of India and other important judges in the Supreme Court of India. The government does not have any role to play in this, while the two high courts that are involved, the one from where transfer is taking place and the other one where the transfer is happening, their chief justices are also consulted in this process. Now, the reason why this is in the debate is when this transfer news came in, as it usually happens, in Gujarat specifically, the lawyers of Gujarat started protesting because they did not want one of their judges, Justice Nikhil S. Karyal, to be transferred. Now, this is not very uncommon. Whenever there is a judge who is popular amongst the lawyers for any reason whatsoever, whenever their news of transfer comes in, the lawyers start to protest that we don't want this judge to go away. Similarly, in Gujarat High Court, these protests started to happen. But the interesting part is similar protests took place in Andhra Pradesh and Madras as well. Interestingly, when the Collegium decided on the matter, they accepted the request of Gujarat lawyers, stopping the transfer of the Gujarat High Court judge, but the other High Court judges were still transferred. This now becomes even more controversial. How is it that the Collegium accepts demand from one set of lawyers and ignores the other set of lawyers? That is still not clear. Now, the main reason for transfer of High Court judges from one High Court to the other is in the interest of the public. If it is thought that good talent has to be spread out across the country, across all the high courts, this is how the Collegium actually gives this order. Transfer of judges, as I said, is needed for exchange of talent across the country and to prevent any judge misusing their power for a long time in the High Court. But whenever these transfer orders have been given, they have always been seen as a threat to judicial independence. Because many times it is seen that whenever a High Court judge is presiding over a significant case, that is when the transfer order comes in. Usually a case when the government is involved, this is where the transfer might come in without any prior notice as well. The memorandum of procedure, which is usually followed for the High Court judge's transfer, clearly says that the consent of the High Court judge is not important. The consent of the High Court judge is not necessary to be taken in order for the transfer order to be given. Currently, the transfers, as I said, are done in the interest of the public and for better administration of justice throughout the entire country. Usually, whenever these transfer orders come in, it leads to a lot of speculations, including the role of the government. As I said, whenever the judge is presiding over a case where government is one of the parties, it usually leads to a lot of controversies. Now, the Constitution of India in Article 222 specifically provides for the provisions of transfer of High Court judges from one High Court to the other. Now, this says that the President of India, after consultation with the Chief Justice of India, may transfer a judge from one high court to the other high court. Also, compensatory allowance will be given to the judge who is being transferred. Also, the Chief Justices of the high courts, the two high courts that are involved, will also be consulted. Now, in this matter, multiple Supreme Court cases have come up, including the three judges' cases that led to the formation of the collegium system. The same collegium that advises the President on appointment of Supreme Court and High Court judges and also on the transfer of High Court judges as well. As you know, in the Sankal Chand Himmatlal State case of 1977, Supreme Court said that High Court judges can be transferred without their consent as well. Their consent is not required. The transfer of the judges will only be in the interest of the public and not in the interest of the individual judge. Then we had the first and the second judges case, as you know, famously known as the three judges case. In the first judges case, it was decided that the government will have the upper hand in deciding on the transfer or on the appointment of the judges, while the advice given by the Chief Justice of India will not be binding. In the second judges case in 1993, a landmark case in the history of India that led to the establishment of the collegium. In this case, the advice given by the Chief Justice of India was made binding on the President, whether it is the advice on appointment of Supreme Court and High Court judges or the advice for transfer of High Court judges as well. And since then, we have the collegium system. Now, the collegium system has often been criticized for a lot of things. It is usually criticized for appointment of judges in the Supreme Court because the government thinks that they don't have any role to play and they don't like the system and it is not transparent. But we don't really talk about the concept of transfer of High Court judges. And the fact is that whenever such order is given, it does remain controversial. A few years back, in Delhi also, a similar kind of a thing happened. When a Delhi High Court judge was given an order in 2020 for transfer from Delhi High Court to another High Court, the lawyers again started to protest because they apparently liked the judges. Usually lawyers like those judges which are straight, which give the decision in the correct manner, which actually treat the lawyers with respect. So lawyers also usually don't want such judges to be transferred from their high court. That is why such kind of protests are not very uncommon. These are the important articles from the Hindu newspaper today. Now a couple of practice questions. Number 1. The procedure of transfer of High Court judges in India is marred with controversy that doesn't augur well for the judiciary's reputation. Discuss. Second, a declining population trend has its own set of challenges, especially in certain Indian states. Analyze. Both these questions have to be answered within 250 words each. You can use the Byjus Exam Prep IAS portal to post your answers there. You can see others' answers as well. You can give feedback to each other and learn from each other's mistake as well. That will really help you in improving your answer writing skills and scoring much better marks in the mains examination. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a good day ahead.